is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 395. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. I'm joined by my good buddy, Adam Emmert.
Man, I wish we were under better circumstances. There's not a lot to be excited about when you lose to the stupid Niners and they celebrate on your field winning the NFC West and all that good stuff. But
that's not good stuff at all.
It could have been a lot worse.
That's bad stuff.
We didn't get blown out, so that was cool. And it was a close game, despite what 49ers fans will tell you, because they don't understand how scoreboards work and things like that. But a bummer of a game with another big game coming up next week.
Clinton and I were talking about this earlier in the week. Do you want to see the 49ers for a third time? Is that something you would look forward to if it were to happen in the playoffs?
Not this year, no.
No?
No, not even a little bit.
So you're saying despite the fact that you felt like it was closer than the score suggested, that you don't want to lose to them a third time? Like, you're convinced that if it were to happen, it would definitely be a loss, and you don't even want to see that.
And it'd probably be even worse. I'd rather play a team that we'd have a chance of beating. Look, Niners are just a more talented team this year right now, and congratulations to them. They're NFC West champions. Congrats, guys. Well done. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Really neat by you. But this organization does have all the tools it needs going forward to, next year, I can't wait to see them twice more. Like, they can field a team that's going to be a lot more competitive. I mean, if we had sucked for, basically a generation and had super high draft picks to burn on defensive linemen, since W. Bush was president, then yeah, we'd probably have a great defensive line too, but we've just had to enjoy sustained success for, this entire Pete Carroll run and really the 2000s as a whole. So we just haven't had the ability to go back and draft that highly every year forever. So that's the difference.
It did demonstrate just how different these two defensive lines were. I mean, our two best players on the defensive line, one came from our highest pick that we've had in the draft in the last 10 years, who's just still happens to be on the team, and Bruce Irvin. And then a guy that we picked up out of free agency this offseason isn't even the highest paid defensive lineman on the team. And those are who we're rolling with. And yeah, you look at theirs and they are stacked with top 15 picks.
They are. And so they're going to be great. They're going to be a great defensive line, which really makes their entire defense look good. And then they hit on the, who's the safety with the long hair, the Polamalu lookalike? I always want to say it's Mufanga, but I know it's not that. Is it Ufanga?
Hufunga with an H.
Hufunga, that's what it is. Okay. Yeah. They hit on him. They bring in the corner from KC, and he's okay.
Yeah.
And, they played pretty good defense. And then Fred Warner's a very good linebacker, so you got to give him his credit.
Well, our playoff chances took a hit this past weekend. The Lions got the win. We knew that one of the teams between the Giants.
We're still up on the Lions. We're still up on the Lions.
We're technically up on the Lions because we hold the tiebreaker for beating them. But they have 3 winnable games to close out the season.
And guess what? Those are all 3 losable games for them to close out the season, too. They're the Lions.
The way they've been playing, it feels like they're more likely to win some of these, at least 2 out of the 3 down the stretch, which puts the Seahawks in position that they have to win 2 out of their final 3.
Which is totally possible.
The way the team's playing, I don't know. I was super excited about this team at 6-3, and then it's been a struggle ever since that time. I'm not so sure that they can come out of it. Losing Tyler Lockett for a few games, the way the defense is playing, they're going to struggle.
Well, yeah, they're going to struggle this year in every game when the defense plays as it does. And it's not like in the 6-3 stretch, the defense was perfect throughout all that either, right? I mean, they started out freaking terrible, then had a good little stretch, which was the aberration, and now they're back to being terrible on the defensive line. That's because they just flat out don't have the talent. And that's not to be a surprising thing, because when you really think about it, they went all in on Russ for the past 5 years. They paid him all the money. They won enough to where they didn't have high draft picks year in and year out. And then this year, in the last couple of years, really, as the defense has struggled because you're paying a quarterback all that money and your draft picks are low, like your defense is probably going to fall off. It's just kind of the way that the cycle of the NFL goes, right? So I guess if we're at this point where they just don't have that much talent on defense and the defense has been bad, we probably should just fire Pete and get rid of everybody, because that's all I've fucking heard all week after this last loss. So many people coming out and being like, fire Pete, get rid of him. He's a bum. He's terrible. Like Rob Staten was out talking about hoping that he would retire this week or just today.
No, so that I looked into it. It looked like it came from, because they built their conversation around Joe Fan tweeting out that is it time for Pete to retire? Because we're going to get this every single year because Pete's in his 70s and they think that he's old. And by normal human standards, the man is getting up there in age. So you get this idea of, well, when is it going to be Pete's time? So it's just something that is natural to talk about at this time of year. And then it was another reporter that picked up on Joe Fan's tweet and said, hey, we've been talking about this. And so two reporters talking about whether or not Pete could and maybe retire turns into a discussion about whether or not it's time for Pete Carroll to go.
That was just a example of many conversations.
Oh, sure.
And comments and, people in the fan base and all of that. And most of their conversation revolved around this Benjamin Albright guy, who apparently has kind of sort of some connections, but is somebody that just likes to talk out of his ass a lot and then happens to get right now and then and really, pounds his chest. I mean, who likes those guys anyways? Those guys are the worst. But yeah, it's mainly based off of that. But let's not get it twisted. Rob has been get rid of Pete for like 5 years now. One of his comments in the discussion on that was somebody said something about keeping Pete because you don't know, who else you're going to get, all that stuff, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, so I guess just 3 more years of bad defense. Right.
Because Pete has never been able to coach defense well.
It's so stupid and short-sighted. Like this whole, what have you done for me lately? And it's not just what have you done for me this year now. It's what did you do in the last quarter that you coached? Like, it's not even the full games. I think there's a lot of Seahawks fans that would be much happier bringing in somebody, say, like Doug Peterson for like 3 years, who is a meteorite for that first little bit, right? Wins a Super Bowl with the Eagles, and then it all crashes and burns, and then they move on from him. They'd rather have that sort of situation than a Pete Carroll run of well over a decade that also includes a Super Bowl title, but continued success. It's like these people are allergic to continued success, and they all act like Pete's the worst coach in the league. Why don't you look around the league and look at bad coaches? I mean, just they're right here in your division. Look at Kingsbury. He's fucking god awful. As bad as Kingsbury. Not even close. They're not in the same class. Look at Hackett in Denver. He looks so far out of his league, it's not even funny. Look at Urban Meyer when he was here. Those are bad coaches. McDaniels looks like a bad coach down in Las Vegas. Again.
Right.
Like, you can see the bad coaches when they're there. Pete's not a bad coach. There are some valid criticisms of Pete about his game management and timeouts and things like that. But on balance, he's a hell of a football coach. And they've got all the resources in the world to come back next year and be better than competitive.
I can understand, though, the idea of you want the best for your team. And yeah, is Geno Smith, for one, going to be a quarterback? Is he going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback? And you can have your opinion of him and say, based on what I've seen, I don't think that he's capable of winning a Super Bowl. And if that's in your mind, then absolutely you want to draft a quarterback high in this with this draft pick that's coming up this offseason or next offseason, because that's just you want to fill that gap that you see with the team. So I can see that with coaching too. We're going to have this conversation. It's going to be there about what to do with Pete long term. I'm more curious to know if you thought this performance against the 49ers was a good performance by the defense. Did they build off something? Was there anything that you saw in there that maybe trends toward them finishing off the season strong.
On defense?
Yes.
No. That was a malfeasance by Kyle Shanahan more than it was Pete Carroll getting the defense fixed and Clint Hurt getting the defense at least a little more competitive, right? With keeping McCaffrey's yards down there for the most part. They give up the big run right at the end, and that kind of skews things. But yeah, that was Kyle Shanahan not just bludgeoning the hell out of the Seahawks play in and play out. He threw the ball way too much throughout that game. I don't understand it. That, to me, that was a bigger part of it than anything.
I think the people that felt like it was a better defensive performance are more of the outcome oriented. Like, yeah, the numbers for the running game, if you take away that last big run, it was pretty decent. Early on in the game, you had a big run by McCaffrey, and they relatively bottled him up after that. Now, they didn't. I agree with you. They just didn't run the ball as much as they could have. They could have been more effective at it. When they did run the ball, it wasn't as though there was a ton of penetration by our defensive line, right? They
weren't getting stymied.
It wasn't like there was great tackles by our linebackers running downhill. It felt like even when they did run the ball, they were getting that initial push through the defensive line and falling forward, and our linebackers were either tackling from behind or just not making big stop type plays.
Or couldn't get off a block.
Right.
No, this isn't any kind of upgrade. We're at the point of the season now, Brandon. You are what you are. And this team is a one-dimensional team with a very good passing game based around its two fantastic wideouts and some very good tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the rest. And that's it.
With that in mind, I know a few weeks ago we were saying use all the picks on defense. Are there some other places on offense where you use those early draft picks?
I've been saying from the get-go, anybody who plays on an interior line position, like, just take them. Anybody.
Interior offensive line and entire defensive line.
Yep.
It's a problem. The interior of the line, not great.
Well, and again, it points to the fact that the Seahawks have been so successful over the years, because you have to have really high draft capital to get the big, athletic, really great defensive linemen and really great offensive linemen. Those guys go off the board early for a reason.
You can only luck your way into a top right tackle in the third round once out of 10 years.
Right. And you can also make a massive mistake in drafting Eskridge instead of Creed Humphreys, right? Who we get to see this next week. And so there's a little bit of give and take there, but yeah, for the most part, the reason why they're so depleted on the lines is they just haven't had the draft capital to go get them.
It's a part of it. I mean, obviously, you can always look at areas where you could say, yeah, they should have taken person X over person Y and had it worked out that way. Things would be different, but yeah, I think just, I'm going to give some grace to the people who want to fire Pete Carroll, the people who have turned on Geno Smith, because it's frustrating to lose to a team like the 49ers and have them win on your field. And so I think a lot of that is frustration coming out of this game.
I totally get being frustrated. I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated on this last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah. So what do? You call for the coach to be fired? You call for a new quarterback?
What do? I pull my head out of my butt and I look around and actually take a long-term view of this team and what it has been, what it can be, and what it is currently. And then I make an actual, cost-benefit analysis in my head about where the changes should be made. And I tell you what, getting rid of Pete and getting rid of Geno, that's like taking some of the better parts of your team and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's the most short-sighted, instant reaction, hot take thinking that a person could have. It's vapid. It's basically the Twitter of head coaching analysis.
coming out of an emotional game, those initial reactions are going to be emotional. So I think that when people get to Thursday and Friday, then you can take a step back a little bit and think things through. But go back to, you see those positions, you want them to be better, but you could always end up with having a guy like Nathaniel Hackett coaching your team next year and ending up with a quarterback who's, I don't know, Davis Mills level, which is less. It's going to be less than Geno, but it would be different and new. So those are the risks that you run into. I know. I think our risk aversion tends to be we tend to stick with the pretty good rather than hoping for great.
I guess, but I just don't think that people understand. This isn't just pretty good from Pete Carroll. This run in his coaching tenure. And this year,
from a big picture perspective, but I think.
But even this year, this is not just pretty good. This year is amazing. This team was supposed to win 2 to 3 games. If you listen to everybody that knows anything, he resurrected Geno fucking Smith, okay, and has him playing close to a MVP caliber quarterback play. And we look at that and we go, his message is old. He needs to go. That's the big thing that I hear or I see in the comments and stuff, is that it's all stale, blah, blah, blah. It's all completely different players. There's nobody there from the Super Bowl team. How can the message be stale if it's all new dudes? Because there's one or two ways to refresh a message, right? One's to get rid of the coach. The other's to get rid of all the players. They got rid of all the players. And now they get to bring in a bunch more young ones.
So now the messages shouldn't be that stale anymore.
It's just not. And what I can't stand is, why isn't anybody calling for LaFleur's head up in Green Bay? They only have 6 wins. How come nobody's calling for McVay's win job this year when Pete's going to double his win total this year?
Right.
After they just won the Super Bowl the year before. It seems like more people, as long as they're young, energetic, good looking, win a Super Bowl in a hurry. But if they stink after that, well, they're fine. They're still geniuses. Don't worry about it. They get all the grace of God. But poor Pete Carroll, being, an older guy and just a guy who wins forever, take him down.
You don't want a young, energetic, and good-looking head coach?
I'm fine with it. But what's wrong with the old, energetic, good-looking head coach?
Yeah, well, you realize that maybe you're not going to have that coach as long. And so they're looking ahead to the newer models.
Well, okay, so let's go back to the retirement idea, right?
Yeah.
What are the odds that Pete Carroll doesn't want to see the next 2 years through, barring a major health issue, with all of these new young kids coming in? That's his wet dream. He's not going anywhere.
I don't get the sense from Pete Carroll at all that he's ready to retire. So no. I don't know where that side of the discussion would come from. It would have to be from the perspective of this defense. You're not seeing enough improvement. Pete Carroll's not hiring the right guys. So you see him making bad decisions. The outlook for the future's not good. And it's the talent with the defense. And he had a lot of say over the talent, whether or not that's a scheme issue with the way that they want to move things. And they need one more offseason to know what they have based on the things that they've tried this year and moving into next year. I'm willing to give it one more year based on the personnel that they have and filling in with the personnel that they think that they need. I can't see them making wholesale changes in the defense all over again after just one season.
Well, and then also let's point to the idea of, he hires all the wrong people and everything like that, right? So he did bring in Dan Quinn and who was the coordinator before that? Gus Bradley. Yeah. And then let's just look at more recent hires. You're like, well, those ones are in the past. You're living in the past. Okay, fine. So he hires Waldron last year. What was most people's gut reaction after Waldron's first year? Meh, at best, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people that would tell you that he stinks. And Pete made another terrible hire. Somehow picked the one Rams assistant that's not worth a shit. And then after this year, do you look at Waldron and be like, he's the problem? No, you're going, I hope he doesn't get poached by some other team. So I'm willing to look for a minute here with Clint Hurt. And then also let's talk about the Hurt hiring. The other big name that was a part of that discussion was Donatel, right? Ed Donatel?
Yeah.
I encourage all of you to go find Brett Coleman's latest video about the Vikings defense and watch it. That's the Donatel-led defense. And thank God.
I wasn't that excited about Donatel when they were thinking about bringing him to Seattle because of his history coaching secondaries.
Yeah, I hated the idea too. And guess what happened? Pete didn't hire him to be the DC.
No.
Ended up being Clint Hurt and kind of sort of Sean Desai. So he can't hire anybody. He doesn't know the right guys to bring in. Well, I can say that he at least knows what guys not to bring in.
Okay.
And they've developed, and this staff has developed Woolen this year. They've made Mike Jackson serviceable. I mean, they've done some things. It's not like Clint Hurt's a total bust. Or the thing is we don't know yet.
It definitely feels more personnel because, one of the things I was talking about with Clinton, it really seems to line up for me Jordan Brooks' success with when Al Woods is playing well. And that could be, he's having to grow into a new position too. I'm not totally sold that he can be that the middle linebacker that leads the defense type of guy. And I think that he's absolutely talented and that I could see a position for him on the team. Whether or not he ends up being that type of guy, though, I still want to see that. There's just, even going back to this 49ers game, I like the fact that he was seeing things and making quick decisions, but sometimes it was the wrong decision. So, yeah. But I do like that over, for instance, what we saw from Cody Barton when, he either is slow to react or is making the wrong decisions. And both of those end up leading to big plays.
Or Brooks just not carrying Kittle down the sideline and you end up with a massive touchdown.
So on the post-game show with KJ Wright and Pete Carroll, the Pete Carroll coaches show, they brought on KJ Wright to talk about some of the things that happened against the 49ers. And based on the answer that Pete gave to KJ, it sounded like that was Tariq Woolen's job, that Tariq followed the receiver too far across the middle and that he should have been falling back into that area where Kittle went. And so, because Pete was talking about just how tore up he was about how bad Woolen felt after that play. So it turned out, we can't put that one on Brooks. Now we can put some of the tackling issues from Quandre and Cody Barton on them. But
yeah. Look, the defense just doesn't have a crap ton of talent on it this year.
And the other Kittle play, we can get back to what you're saying, but while we're talking about Kittle, the other Kittle play with the double fake, if you watch Cody Barton, so they fake it out to the left, and Cody starts going, to his right. Purdy fakes it to the right side, and everybody starts going that way, including Jordan Brooks. And then Cody turns his back and starts going to the left side again when Purdy drops it over the middle in between Barton and Brooks. And I have no idea what Cody would have seen after the fake to the right shift his attention back to his, from his left to his right and makes that hole wide open. Now, I don't think it would have made too much difference because by the time Kittle was past both of them, there was just nothing they could do anyway. It was weird to me watching that play back and seeing, it just felt like it was slow to diagnose what was going on.
The worst part of that entire play is the fact that Purdy stood back there, and was there a guy within 5 yards of him at any given point?
Oh, no.
As he fakes one way, fakes the other, sits down, has a tea party, just hangs out for a while, maybe he signs some autographs and then stands back up and throws a skittle over the middle. I don't care who you are as a coverage guy. If you can't get any more pressure than that, then you're screwed.
Right.
You're absolutely screwed. Now, that doesn't excuse what you just described and the way that Barton's covering things. I think one of the hardest things for us fans is it's obviously a lot easier to look at offensive plays and kind of know what people's assignments ought to be for the most part.
Yeah.
It's a little trickier when you get down into blocking assignments and things like that, right? But it's just kind of a little more obvious because they're the ones trying to dictate, right? So you kind of have an idea of what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with defenses, it's a lot more reactionary, and I think the rules are a lot more blurry, depending on what scheme it is and just what coverage they're in and all that. So it's really hard to ascertain as a fan often what the problem is on defense.
Well, and at a professional level too, they won't just run straight up man defense or straight up zone defense. It might be zone on one side and man on another, or it might be, they do all these kinds of mixing of different defensive packages or defensive concepts that it would, without knowing what it is. Yeah, you're not going to know what an individual's assignment might be, but you kind of get an idea when there's consistent problems in consistent directions and where offenses tend to attack your defense. And, if they're consistently going at one guy on third down, then you kind of know they've pinpointed the weak spot, and that's the area where they're going to go.
And the Niners did it. They know that Barton and Bryant are not great coverage guys, and they ran it enough to really kind of control the game for the most part. The Hawks were right in it up until that sequence in the second quarter where Quandre misses the pick and then Homer coughs it up. It was going to be a close game.
They made too many mistakes. They didn't take advantage of when the Niners made mistakes. They also didn't force them into a lot of mistakes. After the game, looking at the blitz percentages by the Seahawks defense, we remember the one play where Quandre Diggs came in and just got in on Brock Purdy and made him throw an errant pass. It was one of the successful blitzes of the game. They did it one other time. They blitzed Purdy 2 times in his second NFL game, coming into this game where they knew that he was coming in with an injury too, and they blitzed him 2 times.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right?
Rookie quarterback, 7th round rookie quarterback. Heat him up.
Are you just waiting to see if he's going to make a mistake because he's a young quarterback? I don't necessarily understand that. Why not try and force it in? Because, yeah, the times where they did get pressure on him, whether it was through the blitz or whether it was when they happened to get pass rush with 4, you saw errant throws. He struggled to make on-target throws when there was pressure on him.
And you can't think that the strategy was like, well, we'll only blitz him twice because our front 4, they're so talented that like we're going to get there and get pressure on the regular without scheming it up. Like that can't be the thought process, right?
You wouldn't think so. I hope not.
And hey, that's fodder for the Fire Pete Carroll folks, right?
And anybody else on defense. Like, Sean Desai is supposed to be the assistant head coach and a Vic Fangio defense. Is that what Vic Fangio would have done?
No, and we'd never know because we didn't hire him as the DC as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
He's sipping pina coladas somewhere. He's going to be cashing Walmart checks for a while.
Yeah, he's doing all right. That's why I said I understand where people are coming from with the frustration. I'm frustrated too. I never like losing to the Niners.
I don't understand the frustration. I really don't. I guess I understand the frustration. I don't understand the conclusion that a lot of people are coming to as the solution. It's stupid. I'm sorry. It's just dumb. It's literally dumb.
I don't know if it's dumb. I think it's easier to say, let heads roll and go on from there because we get attached to some of the players, I think, more than the coaches. But I'm ready to say that most of the personnel on defense, like if they brought back half, that would be fine.
There's guys for sure. I think you can do that. And I think
for starters,
a lot of the secondary,
and I feel like some of these guys would be very good backups.
I also think that a lot of the players in the secondary are going to look a lot better when the pass rush is legit, right? And they're able to shut down the run. It all just starts and stops there. It just does. It's the way football works.
Can the Seahawks find the Andy Dickerson and Shane Waldron combo for the defensive line? I feel like everything changed on the offensive line when those guys were starting to evaluate talent on a whole different level than the Tom Cable identification of offensive linemen. Like, they know how to find dudes who play offensive line.
Look, man, Andy Dickerson has taken Austin Blythe and made it so that Brandon Schultz on this podcast has had to say, he's been fine. And that's what Andy Dickerson did. That's a feat.
That's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
If Austin Blythe were the worst, like the weakest link on the offensive line, well, and he probably is, but if we had...
I would say Gabe Jackson, but that's okay.
You know, that's another aspect of this offensive line and what they're doing. We've seen Phil Haynes and Gabe Jackson splitting snaps for how many weeks in a row now? How do we not know which one is better and which one can play, I don't know, a full game by now?
Well, we do know which one's better, and we also know which one's older and more injury prone. So basically all this is they're like, okay, so we have this money tied up in Gabe. He's better than Phil Haynes when healthy, but he can't go week in, week out, every snap. He'll wear out, and we won't have him. So they're rotating him in and out with a young guy. Is it unorthodox? You bet. But they're just trying to get the best they can out of Gabe Jackson, which in this season, which I think will probably be his last.
Because I don't notice enough of a drop-off from Jackson to Haynes, and maybe that's just, again, an issue of age versus youth, and maybe I'd notice it more, I guess, if Haynes were in for a full game. He's fine. Haynes is fine.
Doesn't seem to be a massive difference, but I think that, Gabe is the more experienced player and probably a little more polished. And
I don't even know if I'm sold on Lewis at this point.
Oof, his pass pro has been rough.
But then again, all of the interior run blocking too has been rough.
Fun fact, guess who rates the highest on PFF on the Seahawks offensive line?
For run blocking?
For overall grade.
Oh. For overall grade, it's not Abe Lucas?
Nope.
You can't tell me it's Austin Blythe.
Nope.
Okay. Is it Lewis?
Yep.
So he's solid in run blocking and in pass blocking, not so great.
I guess. I don't know. I didn't look into it deep. I don't know which one they had. I just remember seeing that and being like, wow.
That's who. That's who's the best. Okay.
And we're going to need him to step up. We're going to need, Gabe Haynes to step up and Austin Blythe to be good this upcoming week, because against the Chiefs, boy, they're going to have their hands full against maybe the third biggest game wrecker from the nose tackle position in Chris Jones, maybe second.
He's one of the best. Yeah, Chris Jones up the middle is going to be a problem. There's also guys that might have a little bit of a revenge game in them with Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap going up against their former team playing for the Chiefs now. So I'm at least confident, though, that with our rookie tackles, I'm super happy with the rookie tackles so far. But Chris Jones is a guy that it could be a long day.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough in the middle. And then I don't worry so much about Frank Clark having the big revenge game, but I do worry about Carlos Dunlap having the big revenge game, and not because he will be up against Abe Lucas. Like that's not the issue for me. It's just that Carlos seems to have this ability, like, to find that big game or that big play when the big moment calls for it. And he's done it his whole career.
Uh-huh.
And I could just see him randomly turning it on for a game. Like, I really could. Whereas Frank Clark, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Not great, but he's pretty good. Most Kansas City fans would tell you that they lost that trade.
I think a big component of losing that trade was just how much they had to give him contractually.
Right.
He's been fine. Like, he's been above average. Yeah.
He's a Super Bowl champion.
But probably not worth giving up multiple firsts for.
And a massive contract. Like, he's not Von Miller.
Geno Smith did call out Carlos Dunlap, and maybe with a statistic that I wasn't aware of, saying that Dunlap, even despite him not having a full amount of playing time, leads the league in batted passes still.
Does he really?
I guess so. Geno's like,
Yeah,
that guy's still real tall.
There you go. See, I told you. Watch out for the Dunlap.
Well, Geno is aware.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting matchup this week because the Chiefs defense actually pretty damn good against the run. So I don't expect the Seahawks to get Ken Walker if he plays in the run game going. They might, but
are we worried about Ken Walker not playing?
He didn't practice yesterday and they thought maybe today. They said it flared up a bit after, or that's what Pete said in his Tuesday presser.
Oh, gotcha.
And they're day to day with it. But I don't see them getting the run game going the way that we would all hope. But the Chiefs haven't been great against the pass. They're like 22nd in the league against the pass. And guess who's given up the most passing TDs in all of the NFL this year?
Has it been the Chiefs?
It's been the Chiefs, despite most of their secondary players being graded fairly highly from PFF, right?
Well, the thing about, their entire defense, I think they're among the worst in the league in terms of red zone defense.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big component of that could be just how efficient their offense has been. It makes it tough for the defense once they've been on the field for a long time. We've seen that in the past, right? When our offense just can't play efficiently, that it puts a little bit of extra pressure on the defense. And I think that plays out in the stats for the Chiefs. Looking at the practice report, it looks like Ken Walker sat out with the ankle once again. The thing I'm hoping, and maybe if even Travis Homer can play, I think just hitting some of those swing passes out of the backfield could be a huge help with having. Now we know Tyler Lockett not going to play. He got a pretty bad fracture, it sounded like, on a bone in his hand. Now, we thought it was a finger, but I guess it's one of those finger bones that's actually inside of your hand. And so we were saying that he needed to tape it up or chop it off, but you can't even do that when it's one of those little bones that's inside your hand.
Says you wuss.
How do you tape your hand to make it?
No, you just chop it off. You catch it with the stub.
The whole hand. Yeah, Shaquem played with one hand. It can be done. You can play receiver, totally. But.
Well, he's also not Tyler Lockett. I think Tyler Lockett could play receiver one-handed.
We've seen him catch plenty of passes one-handed.
What could go wrong? He just not have a hand for the rest of his life.
I can deal without Tyler Lockett for a couple weeks. It sounded like the surgery went well and that he could be back for a game later this season. So
even the Jets game.
Yeah.
But that does give opportunity to Derek Young, which we saw him with the big catch last week, even though it came back.
Right.
And then, whether that's Treadwell, Laquan Treadwell coming in and, getting yet another opportunity to see if, he can be somebody, or, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Well, he's been playing quite a bit. Penny Hart. There it is.
Yeah.
How disappointed are you, Brandon, that Eskridge, who said he could be eligible to be back for the Chiefs game, is not in line to take this opportunity with Tyler going down?
I don't know. I've kind of, and it's sad to say this, I've kind of written off Eskridge at this point.
You pennied him?
I've pennied him. I've maybe even penny hearted him because I completely forgot about Penny Hart being on this roster too. That's another guy who has been on the team and feels like he should be able to be in position to make a step up. I am excited though for the opportunity to get Young on the field with DK, with Goodwin. I feel like the matchup with the speed with those three guys could, those guys have some speed, and Treadwell's a speedy guy too. The problem is that he's never had the hands to be able to stick in the NFL as a receiver. But maybe we can find some opportunities for him, like the jet sweep type things, where you can take advantage of his speediness in other ways without having to, like, maybe he can catch some short passes.
If he can be the third or fourth receiver with Tyler out, great. I mean, that's not a terrible third or fourth receiver to have.
No, you just need someone between Penny Hart, Treadwell, and Eskridge, if he can come back, to be that fourth guy.
And Derek Young. Yeah. Well, we're going to need Derek to be.
I'm already counting on him being one of the three.
Yeah. So.
And really.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
We've talked about this in the offseason too. When you get to Derek Young, yes, he's the 3 wide receiver, but really he's the 5 in terms of pass catcher because you got Will Dissly and you got Noah Fant as the more senior or more primary of the pass catchers. I don't know in terms of tight ends against the Chiefs how it's going to work out. They have a tight end, but I know we have to worry about.
He's going to have 10,000 catches in this game.
How do you stop Travis Kelce? Do you clone Ryan Neal and then resurrect Jamal Adams from being injured and somehow manage to compile that into a person who could cover Travis Kelce?
That's certainly a theory. And I do like it. I like the idea of the clone. And
we multiplicity our way to a guy who can cover Travis Kelce.
Your other option is to gather some scantily clad Instagram models, have them stand out outside the stadium and talk to Kelce and let him know that they're putting together a frat party just down the road with a bunch of free beer and just see if you can lure him away. Because I think you'd have a 60% chance.
Wouldn't you have practiced that with Kittle the previous week?
I think Kittle's happily married.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's a woo guy, don't get me wrong. But Travis Kelce is the single woo guy.
And that's the guy that you really have to worry about.
Yeah, he was going to have a reality TV show called Catching Kelce, right? Remember that? It was like Bachelor style.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how you stop Travis Kelce.
That's how you stop
Kelce. Scantily clad Instagram models at the doorstep of Arrowhead. Mark it down.
The thing I do like about this matchup with the Chiefs, it is a chance for the Seahawks to face off against really what the best that the AFC has to offer. And it's going to be in a cold weather game. So physicality is going to play its way into the game in these types of situations. Can Seattle be a little bit more physical than the Chiefs?
I guess. I mean, I think the weather's going to affect them both. And I don't worry about Mahomes playing in the cold. I honestly don't worry about Geno playing in the cold. No. I mean, he went to school in West Virginia. They've got some cold there. And again, they're going to be in Kansas City, Missouri.
I think it's still below freezing, though.
Okay, and that's fine. And I get the humid cold is cold. Trust me, I understand that these days. I get it. But when you're out there running around and everything, if it's 20 degrees plus, it's all about the same. I just think that the matchup of the Seahawks offense versus the Kansas City defense is more advantageous for the Seahawks than Kansas City's offense matchup against the Seahawks defense, because the Chiefs, what they don't do well is what we're capable of exploiting with the passing game, right? For us, what we don't do well, the Chiefs don't do at all. Even with Pachenko or whoever the number 10, the running back is, like Tyreek Hill kind of look like, right? They just don't run the ball much.
No.
And so the strength of our team is the passing defense. Not that that's amazing either. And of course, you're competing with Mahomes, but at least it's playing into the side, the part of defense that you play better.
Do we see 8.5 touchdowns over under?
Give me 7.5 and I'll take the over.
I'm going high on this. I think there's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game, which means that maybe the cold impacts it and we see a 16-13 game, because sometimes the NFL gets weird that way.
Especially this wacky season, right? But you're playing one of the 3 best teams in the AFC, and the AFC being the better conference this year overall. It's a big test. You might lose. And again, still okay. Still okay. We're not the Cardinals or the Rams.
There's one aspect to this, and I am glad, though, that we saw the Rams lose and the Cardinals lose, because we have officially locked up second place in the NFC West. No matter what happens, we're second place in the NFC West from here on out.
Exactly. And our old coach has somehow won more games than the two young pups in the division.
You can't argue that they are younger than Pete, though.
No, you can't. They legit are younger. It's a true fact. You know what this game comes down to, though, Brandon? You know what it really comes down to? If the Seahawks win the coin toss and they accept the ball, that's a for sure loss.
Is it? I thought when we accepted the ball, it tended to be, I thought they had a winning record when accepting the ball.
No, but it's a for sure loss.
Oh, okay. Dang it.
Because now Clinton's too far out on this limb, so it'll come back to bite him.
There is one wacky factor that I feel like we could throw out here too, since we're talking about things that may not matter, but may play into it anyway. The Kansas City Chiefs, they have their division locked up. They don't need this game.
Yeah, they're still kind of vying for seeding, right? I mean, how far are them and the Bills apart? Because the Bills are the 1 seed, and I'm pretty sure they don't want to go to Buffalo.
Bills are 11-3, Chiefs are 11-3, so they're both right
they're
there.
They're playing for something.
Yeah, they are playing for seeding, I suppose.
Yeah,
but they could still get there. They don't need it.
They don't need it. But it is easy to become a little complacent after you wrap up your division, right?
That's what I'm counting on.
We've seen stranger
That's what I'm
things.
saying. It could be a factor that I'm crossing my fingers that is a factor.
There's your Hail Mary Seahawks homer take on things, because I'm right with you. But is it likely? Probably not, but you can hope.
I think the more likely thing is that you trade score for score against this Chiefs offense, and that we see some benefit from having our speedy wide receivers against their secondary. DK goes off. You see a Marquise Goodwin solid game, and Geno throws for 350 yards going up against Mahomes. And even in the cold, that they're able to put up scores on this Kansas City Chiefs defense that's kind of porous when it comes to the red zone. And you hope that there's a mistake in there that you can capitalize on. You get a good fumble bounce on your side. They get bad fumble bounces, and that comes down to the wire. I think that's what we have to hope for.
You're going to need a big game offensively from either Young, Fant, or Disley. Because you can see that I would say Parkinson as well, but I mean, they kind of throw him in as like a every now and then kind of a deal.
1 catch, 12 yards, and
right.
That's what he gets a game.
Right. So you're going to need one of those 3 dudes to step up in the absence of Tyler. And we're going to see how big of a deal that is for the team. Let us not forget, he's the team captain on offense, right? He's a big voice.
I don't think he's missed a regular season start. Even when he had his broken leg, that was in the final game of the regular season. And I don't think that he's...
Yes, that's true. I never thought about that.
Now, the captain part, he can still captain on the sideline with a cast on his hand.
It's not the same as captaining on the field on 3rd and 12 and Chris Jones is breathing down your neck. And
yeah, he's going to make Austin Blythe block Chris Jones better if he's on the field, but not when he's off the field.
Travis Homer better be healthy, man, because we're going to need him to be in there helping to block the interior pass rush for sure.
Can we put somebody bigger than Homer back there?
DJ.
Somebody bigger than DJ?
Put Fat back there.
Yeah, he did so well blocking Bosa this last game.
Yeah. He's just bigger. Well, then put Uncle Will.
All right. We found the solution. Uncle Will.
There it is.
Playing fullback. We need you, buddy.
H-back. Don't make him play fullback. Nobody wants to play fullback anymore.
That sounds
which is lame because fullback is awesome, but that's fine.
Nobody wants that title except Nick Bellore.
Nick Bellore will take any title that keeps him on an NFL team because he knows he's living an extremely blessed life, and good for him, man. Keep getting them checks.
Keep getting them checks and start blocking Chris Jones.
Yeah, I guess just throw Bellore in there. His forehead's big enough to block Chris Jones, yeah?
I'd give it a chance. Let's get to the second half of the show.
All right, man.
We hinted at it toward the tail end of the first half of the show, and now that we're getting into the second half, yes, the Cardinals did lose, and they lost at an inopportune time losing to Brett Rippon and the stupid Broncos, who, without Russ on the field, managed to win a football game.
They did, and we watched it in its entirety. It was a football game that was played in America, that's for sure. It would have been nice to have the Cards win, but then again, would it have been? I don't know.
We locked up second place thanks to their loss.
Yeah, still felt good,
I suppose. I know we struggled with that as we were watching the game as to which side we were supposed to be rooting for. And so it worked out. We can be happy either way, I suppose. But we do need the Broncos to lose to the stupid Rams this coming weekend.
Yes, that needs to happen. And I think it very well could. You never know. The Rams are still playing hard. You got to give them that. And I watched the Rams this last week, and man, I hate to admit, Ramsey's damn good, man. He makes some big plays, and he's out there competing.
Yeah.
I think that defense could still be a handful for a struggling Broncos offense.
I'm still concerned about the Rams for the matchup that we have coming up against them, because they don't have anything that they really have to play for. There's no draft pick that they have to lose for. They're playing for pride. They're playing to be spoiler for the Seahawks coming up in the final game of the season. So that could be a matchup that we still have to concern ourselves with. Although I didn't see a whole lot from Baker Mayfield. Turns out that he wasn't going to magically be better with one more week of actual practice than just throwing him out there and letting him play in the Rams offense.
Well, I mean, Baker just has so many limitations, and with that offensive line being in shambles, I think it's going to be a rough go for him going down the stretch, pretty much no matter what.
No, but I think there was that hope, a sliver of hope among Rams fans that thought, oh, Baker can come in and he's going to be a gamer and make us be competitive going down the stretch because he has a little bit of mobility, probably more than Stafford, that he'd be able to at least keep him in games. And with the defense playing, like if they're playing at their best, I think they could do it. Again, I think it's going to be something that we have to worry about when that matchup comes between the two of us.
We have to worry about Baker Mayfield.
No, we have to worry about the Rams defense.
Just because they are playing still very, very hard. Hopefully Wagner's got all the revenge out of his system. That'd be great, because he just destroyed us in the last matchup. But yeah, as far as Baker goes, if there was a Rams fan that was like, well, Baker's going to come in, he can move a little, he can be a gamer and like all that, I guess it wouldn't surprise me to hear a Rams fan saying that, because they are incredibly delusional. So I could see how they would talk themselves into that as well.
But as a Seahawks fan who knows our defense, I know that Baker has enough skill to be able to hand the football off to any running back that is able to move his legs against this defense and possibly have success that way.
There is that. That's a solid point. I'm not gonna take that from you, because Baker is highly capable of taking the snap and then handing it to literally a breathing human to run.
And that's what would have me concerned on offense.
Yeah. I can see that.
Because we still got to play the deep ball. We still got to worry about Baker beating us deep, right? And why blitz him? Why blitz Baker Mayfield?
Right. And that's exactly how they're going to play. That's my biggest complaint about Pete, is the terrified nature of giving up explosives and just all that underneath zone. But
the thing is, too, and as much as that's part of the criticism of Pete, what was it that beat the Seahawks against the Niners? It was explosive plays that they gave up to the Niners on offense.
I'm glad we really tried hard to stop those and not anything else then.
What do you say we thank our executive producers? Welcome a new member of the flock.
Heck yeah, man. Even after a loss during a bad streak here, another new member of the flock, and then I could never question the loyalty of our executive producers, because they are just so amazing.
Thank you to our amazing executive producers, DCH, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen. And a welcome to the flock to James Leonard, who is in at 1212.
Great to have you there in the Ring of Honor with the rest of us, where you can have real Seahawks football discussion without feeling like you're among a bunch of haters.
So thanks to James. Also, thanks to Jeremy, who I've been sitting on his voicemail now for a couple weeks, and I remembered to put it in my notes this week because we answered a question. I don't even remember what question that we actually answered. It's been enough time that has passed.
Yeah.
I'm ready to hear. Hopefully he recaps the question for us before asking us our next trivia question.
Okay.
Adam and Brandon, what's up? It's Jeremy from Orange. I am here with your trivia. And first of all, I butchered the question. I meant to say regular season games. The question was, which NFL teams have Pete Carroll and John Schneider beaten less than twice in regular season games? But I forgot to say the regular season part. So, Adam, your first guess was New Orleans. And yes, they have beaten New Orleans in the playoffs, but that initial guess was correct. They've only beaten New Orleans once in 6 regular season games. So that was it. You next went to Dallas and said we haven't played them much, but we've actually played Dallas 7 times in the regular season and beaten them 5 times. Brandon, you mentioned Washington, who they do have a losing record to. That's one of the few teams that they have a losing record to. Now, in the AFC, Adam said Indy, but we have a winning record against Indy, 2-1. And this goes to the reason why I asked the question. The answer is the Kansas City Chiefs. And then last week you had said Cincinnati and Tennessee. We've only beaten them once. But Kansas City was the other team that you did not mention. And Kansas City, the reason why I bring them up is because we played them in Kansas City this year. So we could take that one off of the ledger. All right, the question for next week. Rank the following players in order of career regular season games played as a Seahawk. Doug Baldwin, Sean Alexander, John Ryan, Tyler Lockett, and Earl Thomas. Rank in order of career regular season games played as a Seahawk. Baldwin, Alexander, John Ryan, Tyler, and Earl. Go Hawks.
Good question again. Now, maybe they'll beat the Chiefs just to, make Jeremy's question irrelevant then,
We can hope. I want more wins against the Chiefs than less.
Right.
Especially in Kansas City.
Yeah. So career games played. We got Tyler, we got Earl, we got John, we got Sean Alexander, and who am I missing?
It was, there's 5. Baldwin, Alexander, John Ryan, Tyler, and Earl.
Okay.
That makes it hard because John Ryan has 2 first names, and so it sounds like there's 6.
Right. I would go Baldwin number 1, Earl number 2, Alexander 3, Tyler 4, John Ryan 5.
I would flip John Ryan because he started with the team in 2009, I think.
God, yeah, it's true.
So when I think of when guys joined the team, there's 4 of them in this current era, and then you have Sean Alexander. John Ryan started, I think, in 2009. Baldwin was 2010. Earl 2011. Oh wait, no, do I have those backwards? Or were they both 2010?
I think Earl and Dougie were the
same year, 2010.
Same year, yeah.
Tyler came in 2014, but he's also still currently on the team, whereas the rest of the guys left since then. So that's what's hard to me, is that you have Baldwin, Tyler, Earl, and Alexander all roughly in the same era, where I think John Ryan has played the most. He's just...
You might be right on that.
You forget about him because he's the punter.
Yeah, just in terms of years, right? Because, Tyler and, the 3 dudes, Doug and Earl.
Yeah.
They're all about 8-9 years, right? And Sean.
Did Baldwin leave before Earl?
No.
He was around longer than Earl?
I think he was around 1 more year than Earl, right?
Okay. I'll take your word for that.
I could be wrong.
Because in my mind, I'm going John Ryan, I'm going Tyler Lockett, Sean Alexander, Earl, and Doug last.
I put Sean Alexander at the bottom then, because I did forget that last year he didn't play much. And none of those guys had big, long injury stretches either, right? Yeah, I'll go with John then, because for some reason I'd forgotten that he had started so early with the team. So John, Tyler, because he just hasn't missed really a lot of regular season games, like you pointed out.
Yeah, so he's, what is this, his 9th season? Almost 9 full seasons for Tyler?
Yeah. John, Tyler, Doug, Sean, Earl. There's my list.
Okay. There you go, Jeremy. Which one of us is right? We helped each other through that.
We did. They're tough questions.
It's fun to think through, though.
Yeah.
Randy Horner comes in with an email, says, I was going to take the blame for this week's loss after checking the Pick'em League standings and several so-called little flockers, seeing them with wins after the Thursday night game. I am forced to blame them for the loss. Haley and Don't Tease Me Tabor for picking the dirty 49ers to beat your Seahawks. Do better. We need a serious Hawker cleansing before we even think about drafting next year.
Yes, I think at the end of this year, we're going to have a seance of some kind. I still have a little bit of it in development, and Brandon and I need to talk about it more. But yeah, man, I think Brandon's going to address the cheaters later on here in the pod here shortly.
I'm addressing them now.
Yeah.
They're dirty cheaters, and they deserve to be punished for it. In fact, I switched their picks back to the correct game.
Oh, well, good for you.
Let's see where the top people are right now. Actually, looking at the Pick'em League standings, there we go. Jonathan Chivers at the top of the list, not only picking 14 games correct, also not on that list of the 2 people that got called out. So Jonathan Chivers doing it the right way. Nobody even came close. I mean, the closest was a lot of folks had 12 picks correct.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't even see it was Little Flockers and Don't Tease Me Tabor. See, this is what happens though. There's enough people. I just read Randy's email. I probably got 4 or 5 different messages from people who had been checking the standings to make sure. So if you're picking against your team, you are definitely getting called out by other members of the flock.
It's not going to slip by. I mean, even if it gets by both my radar and especially Brandon's radar, it is not getting by the little flockers, man. Like you'll be punished accordingly.
So not only were they punished accordingly, they also, their Hawkra took a hit this week because G. Haley, after knocking down that team, that goes from 10 to 9, so not even close to 14. And then Don't Tease Me Tabor went down from 11 to 10. So not even close to sniffing the top of the leaderboard, even with making erroneous picks. So looking at the leaderboard, Adam, we now have a 3-way tie at the top of the standings. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Kalispell, MT Hawk, and my Dixon is bigger, all with 145 points. And not far behind, there's another 3-way tie at 143 with the Sofa King. Well, Pete said we were awesome. And a penny for my Dixon de Monet. All 3 at 143.
Man, gonna come right down to the wire here, just like the Seahawks season, if they're gonna make the playoffs. Exciting. This is gonna be an exciting race down the stretch.
All playing for that top spot. Of course, in pretty good position for prizes toward the end of the season for everybody who is currently in the top 10. But there's still, I see, Toonhawk sitting there at a tie for 11. Ooh, there's G. Haley at a tie for 11. See, that's why G. Haley was picking against the Seahawks, is hoping to maybe get into the top 10. Because they would have made it if I would have allowed that pick to stand.
Justice was served. Well done, Brandon.
You're out of the top 10, G. Haley.
Yeah, between you and Randy, we got this on lockdown.
On to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for the company MSG Entertainment. They own a bunch of different restaurants and, entertainment venues, things like that. One of them happens to be Radio City Music Hall in New York. So the weekend after Thanksgiving, a lady by the name of Kelly Conlon, who is an attorney, took her daughter and her Girl Scout troop all together to Radio City Music Hall to watch a performance by the Rockettes. So they walk through the door and she's eventually stopped by security and they ask her to leave. Now they allow the daughter and the other kids to go in and see the performance, but the mom was banned from Radio City Music Hall. And you'd be like, well, how is this?
Did she pick against the Yankees in a baseball pick'em league?
No, this is so disgustingly devious. So she's a lawyer for a firm that is representing another individual who's suing a restaurant that MSG Entertainment owns. So she works for the same law firm that is suing MSG over a dispute over a restaurant, right? She is not on the case. She is not on that case. She's not doing any work towards this lawsuit, right? But they use facial recognition scanning or everybody that walks through the door.
Yeah.
They scanned her face, recognized her as being a part of the law firm that is suing them in a different matter that has nothing to do with any of this, and then banned her ass from going to see the Rockettes with her daughter and their Girl Scout troop. This is disgusting 1984 bull. MSG Entertainment, I hope you get sued again for this, and you're broke, and you have to sell everything. This is disgusting. It's a violation of privacy. Do better.
And I think we need to take a step back, though, and think about this. What if at Lumen Field you could put in a database all 49ers, Rams, and Cardinals fans, identify them as they're coming through the gate, and then turn them away as not being welcome to come cheer for their team at Lumen Field? This could be a strategic advantage by having this facial identification software in Seattle.
Yeah, well, look, this software should not be used anywhere at any time unless somebody with a good and virtuous spirit is in charge of it, like me. So if it's me, then it's fine. If it's everybody else, not fine. It's a slippery slope.
You're going to find a way to use it the right way, like kicking out our dirty rivals from entering Seahawks Stadium.
That's exactly right. Only because I'm an actual good person and I clearly could be trusted with this power. I mean, that's exactly it, right? Like, that's the entire point of why this is a problem. It's like, all right, so when it is in the hands of the people that you would want, then maybe things turn out your way. But then all of a sudden, when it slips to, somebody that you're not excited about,
right?
Now that's scary. So, like, maybe we should just not have it. Like, this whole facial recognition thing, like, this is scary. This is like Minority Report crap.
Well, especially if, I don't know, you have a face that's kind of close to somebody else's. Like, am I going to get targeted as Will Wheaton? Like, if he were to go out and do something bad, would I be close enough in facial recognition to Will Wheaton that I would then be affected by whatever wrongdoings he may commit?
God, the list of those must be just numerous,
he
right?
He might be a Rams fan. What if Will Wheaton is a Rams fan and I can't get in to Lumen Field to watch a game?
Exactly. And the thing is, I think you'd have to put on about 20 pounds, man.
I don't know. I'm working on
it. No, you'd have to work on it a little bit, I think.
My do better this week is for Grant Cohn, who is a writer over at Fan Nation for the 49ers. And this headline.
Even the Niners and the Niners fans hate this guy.
Well, they have a reason to. If you were a 49ers fan and you saw an article titled "An Official Moratorium on 49ers What If Questions," I think you would have a reason to be mad, because this is your representation. This is the content creator that you're going to ask these types of questions. And he wrote a list of 10 questions that, as a 49er fan, you're, one, not allowed to ask, and he's not going to answer. They're too hypothetical. But listen to these questions. These are good questions for the 49ers going into the offseason and potentially next year. These are types of future questions that fans are having to deal with. One, what if Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl? Does that mean he automatically wins the starting job over Trey Lance next season? Okay, maybe that's not a good question because the answer to that one's yes, but you could totally write an article about it. 2, what if Kyle Shanahan wins the Super Bowl with a rookie third-string quarterback? Would that mean Shanahan is better than Bill Walsh? Okay, I'm maybe with Grant on this one. That's a stupid question. For one, these questions are positing the fact that the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl, which they aren't. Here's a better one. What if Purdy makes it to the NFC Championship game, but not the Super Bowl? Would there be a quarterback competition? Now, see, Grant, you should be all over writing a story about that. There's 7 more of these questions. I don't need to get into the mind of 49ers fans any deeper than that. All I need to know is that Grant Cohen isn't interested in answering you, the 49ers fan, and any of your stupid questions. So for a beat writer not willing to do his job, do better.
All right. I think there's 2 factors at play here that are clear as day. 1, Grant Cohen wants to take the summer off. He doesn't. He's eliminating 10 big topics that he would have to write about over the offseason. He's just making it so there's nothing to write about.
You can totally take the summer off. You can write an article for all of these questions in, I don't know, February, and you can load them up and shoot. You could probably run them in cycles, write different answers in different ways. You can have content for the whole offseason. These are easy questions that just will fill up space over the offseason.
Right. So Grant's lazy, so we can say that. And then 2, I think he realized that the what if corner has been totally capitalized and owned by our very own Seahawks podcast, Phil Leidick. Like, why would he dabble in what if things when he can't hold a candle to Phil and the what if show? Like, it's fantastic.
You know what? He may realize that we have our lawyers that will send cease and desist notes for even positing what if questions because we've trademarked it.
And I can employ facial recognition software so I can recognize Grant Cohen. All I have to do is use my eyeballs and I'll be like, there's that guy, sue him. And that's original biological intelligence, not even artificial intelligence. Look at that.
There we go. See, we just need more biological intelligence. That would fix everything.
It surely would. It would help a lot, but we're dumb. So it's just how it is.
All right.
Yeah.
On to Better at Life.
My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for an individual who is certainly not dumb, certainly not over the hill, certainly not a guy that you would just jettison because he's been the greatest coach that your organization has ever seen. And that's including Holmgren. It's for my boy, Pete Carroll. I feel like I need to stick up for him today. I've just been seeing so much slander. And I know we talked about it at length earlier in the pod, but it drives me crazy, man. I don't know him. He's successful. He's easy to root for. They make good decisions in terms of, dealing with social issues and, they make you proud to be a Seahawks fan. Pete Carroll makes you proud to be a Seahawks fan. There's so many more embarrassments that you could have at the position, right? And everybody's so quick to get rid of them because they're so stinking ageist and they don't understand how football works and how it's won in the trenches. And that's what Pete wants. And he's my guy. Even when he blows challenges and timeouts and doesn't go for it on 4th down, he's still my coach and he's better at life than Skip Bayless.
Wow. You got to throw out the ist suffix on that. Maybe they want a better coach. Maybe it's not just with his age. Have you ever thought about that?
They're ageist. They don't think anybody that enjoys Jell-O for 3 meals a day can be their head coach.
My Better at Life this week. We saw him on the television this past week. The ladies who brought the sign to the game that on Thursday Night Football, because of course Richard Sherman returned to the stadium. He's on the sidelines, though, as part of the sideline crew for Amazon. And they had the quote, right? It's on the sign. We got a screenshot of it. Now, maybe some of you, it slipped by your viewing because it was just a quick shot on the ladies with the sign. But it said, "I'm better at life than you, Richard Sherman." It's the namesake of this segment. And it goes back to Richard Sherman telling Skip Bayless, "Yes, I am better at life than you." And it was just nice to see that even after all these years, that has resonated with fans to the point that they made a sign for it, brought it to the game on Thursday Night Football. You ladies are better at life than Skip Bayless.
But you're going to be a bit poorer because I used some facial recognition software and now I'm suing them for intellectual property stealing. So, and that way we can get their money. So then Richard can then sue us and then take it back because it's really his when it's all said and done.
But next time, okay, but maybe we'll give you a pass this time. Next time, you just have to throw a Seahawkers podcast logo on the sign and then you're okay.
So the attribution would get it done.
Exactly.
Sounds fair to me. Look, if there's no more fair judge, jury, or an executioner on the planet than Brandon Schultz. Look at the way that he handled our Pick'em League, the way he's handling, ladies who steal our catchphrases, all that. He is a much benevolent, amazing leader and ruler. Give him some AI facial recognition software. He's earned it.
Biological intelligence.
I think you got a little artificial in there, too.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.